Before taking that big step of choosing which school is right for your child, you really need to decide what's the right curriculum for them. But there's a variety of curricula offered here at international schools in the UAE, so how do you know which is the right one for you or your child? There's no one size fits all, so you need to really understand the differences and the similarities before you can make that choice. So today I'm joined by a panel of education experts from schools in Dubai, and we're going to talk about the different curricula, why you may want to choose one over another, and so then you can help use that decision when you're choosing a school for your child. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Carly Allen. I'm the International Editor for Which School Advisor, and I'm joined here by, as I say, a panel of education experts here from schools in Dubai, representing a variety of curricula, including the UK curriculum, the International Baccalaureate or IB program, and the US curriculum. So if I can just start by introducing here, I have Brian Cleary, the IB coordinator at Dira International School, Mike Bloy, the head of secondary at King's, Liam Cullinan, the head of secondary at Nordaglia International School, and Obi Seeley, the school director at Universal American School. So I think we can say that there's a lot of schools here that will offer the UK system, but there's also a significant number offering the IB program and also the US curriculum. So I think the end goal is obviously for these curriculum to educate, put students on the correct pathway to get to university or to follow their career. But there are different approaches to teaching methods, there's different content, there's different methods of assessment. So we're going to look at that in more detail today. So I think perhaps if we could just start by each person just introducing the curriculum that you're offering within the school, just a very brief overview so that the parents watching can understand the differences.
So at Dira International School, from FS up to year 11, we're British curriculum. That would include the IGCSE at year 10 and year 11. And then after that, they progress on to the IB program in year 12 and year 13. At the IB, we offer 3 different pathways. We have the IB diploma program, we've got the IB courses option, and the IB career related program.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, and we're very similar to DIS in that we offer the British curriculum up to year 11 with the GCSE results also, and then we offer the 2 route actually at IB. We do the diploma and we do the courses route, which we're hoping we're currently through the process of getting that accredited by NIASC to create our own high school diploma also.
And Mike, can you talk us through?
Fairly similar as well. We do the UK curricular program here. We do that from 3 to 18. Post 16 we offer BTEC and A-levels, and we're currently just exploring how we weave MSAT into that for our Emirati children looking for local universities as well.
And Obi, I know it's slightly different, you're offering going into the American system.
That's right. At Universal American School, we offer the American curriculum that goes from pre-KG all the way up until grade 10, and then in grade 11 you will make a choice and you can either pursue the IB diploma or you can take the Common Core and AP courses.
Okay, fantastic. So I think we can see, there's similarities and there's differences. So for parents, I can understand it's confusing and it's probably overwhelming and which choice should they take. So I think first of all, if we talk about, when you're looking at school, there are many different factors that you want to consider. So why is curriculum important and why is that one of the things that parents need to sort of perhaps put near the top of the list? Brian, can you start us off?
I think for us really, especially at sixth form, we look at curriculum for a couple of different reasons. One thing is preparation towards university. And for us, we believe the IB program is the best entry-level to university program. The reason why is for the curriculum is about preparing to have the right skills, the right content knowledge or subject knowledge, and the ability to transfer seamlessly into universities.
Yes.
And the other thing we say is hugely important, especially as sixth form, is differentiating yourself from other candidates going towards university. And the IB diploma, in terms of its academic rigour, its holistic development, things like their CAS, their contribution to the community, really differentiates the students. So really when you're looking at curriculum, I'd look at the skills you build, how the ability of that curriculum to transfer onto either university or lower down the school transfer onto IGCSE or different stages, and about basically differentiating yourself and giving you as a candidate towards universities the best opportunity to get into universities you want.
Okay, and also, when people are looking at curriculum, we know here living in the UAE, you could be here 3 years, you could be here 15 years, you don't know. Is it important for parents to perhaps look at a curriculum that may link into what's offered in their home country?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a really interesting time for us all in education right now, because the face of education is constantly changing, and we're looking what universities need, what people need in the workplace, because people is such a place where everybody's so transient right now. Therefore, it's not actually what they need just in home country. Actually, you've got to consider also what they've got in countries internationally. And we're blessed that I work for a company that's got 66 schools across the world, so it allows for that natural transfer to happen across into similar IB curriculum offers that we have as at school. But from early years all the way up, you've really got to consider what attributes you want your young people to possess in an ever-changing workplace, and therefore the curriculum is one tool to create young people and young opportunities for more skill-based learners, with 85% of jobs now saying it's about skill-based as opposed to knowledge. The curriculum isn't the only thing that you should consider. It's one source to consider, but who the young person is developed through that curriculum tool and the school they go to, which ensures they nurture that talent regardless of curriculum. So, but when you look back at home country, you have got to consider, is that curriculum offered in your home school country, and will they possess the skills required to succeed beyond?
Yeah, certainly. And I think it's also, when you touch on that and looking sort of, we have parents who may be looking at it from a kindergarten or joining an FS, and you do want the best for your child and what they may grow to become. But do parents need to be looking at it going, well, my child's going into FS, I know that I want them to go to, Oxford University and study law and become a lawyer or a doctor. Do they need to be that focused so early on, or, can they take a broader, like you're saying, look at other skills that they may need going into work? Mike?
We get a lot of that. Yeah, I'm sure we all do. Ideally not, because the child hopefully should make their own mind up at this stage. But the curricula, if I was coming with a parental head, I'd be looking to say, actually, is it broad enough to spark the interest in whatever it is my child is going to be? If you're going to be quite narrow focused about what you want, then you'll probably determine which school you're going to go to anyway, because you've got a fairly mixed mindset. But the curricula should be about little Johnny or whoever, and can they be that basketballer? Can be the, if that's their passion, how does it support it? What does it do? Where's the pastoral support that wraps around that as well?
Yes.
How does it push them to that? If they want to be the doctor or the brain surgeon at Cambridge, how does that pathway make sure it goes through? And that requires sparks of something at every single stage, from foundation all the way up to post-16. And that's where your curricula develops that. It gives a richness, and that's where I kind of sit on the skills and knowledge side, because the skills bit, if you want communicators, you need the depth of knowledge in order to actually have an active conversation. Hopefully we're sat on here because we know what we're talking about, and that's because we've been embedded in it, we've got that knowledge. And often, sometimes we're talking a lot about skills at the minute without forgetting actually you need that depth of knowledge underpinned in the curriculum in order to be an active communicator or a collaborator, or all the things that businesses are cherishing at the minute. And that's where, if you're wanting those things, look for schools which deliver that, a breadth but in depth as well, and make sure that that actually makes sense from 3 to 18. Is it coherent? And those are things to start asking about.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think what really comes across is it's very well rounded, and it's not as simple as the sort of the English, maths and the science and just looking purely at that. And then just sort of looking at what you're offering at Universal American is obviously, it may be easy for parents to look at that and think, well, that's purely for students who want to go back to America, and you're offering that system, and then you go into the AP, and I know you also offer the diploma program as well. So, linking back to when we're talking about the home country, it's important to understand that this could be a broader curriculum for students for all nationalities, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. I think the hallmark of American education is choice. And I think that, I'm an IB educator for a long time, and so having the IB diploma as an option is a wonderful option for many of our students.
Yeah.
And in terms of that big four, your doctor, your lawyer, your commerce, your engineer, that IB diploma is accurately said by our colleagues, it's probably the best university preparation. But what about people who want to go into the creative industry? And what about people who want to go into other industries? Those are the kids that we're really interested in trying to serve, and that's why we have the parallel program to offer as much choice so the students can identify, as was rightly said, who they are and their personal best, and then we can provide a curricular offering that is going to support that end.
Yeah, sure. And if we just look at the curricula, I think, as a whole, and obviously we go through from sort of your FS or your kindergarten, and you're all through schools, is there a time when the differences become more apparent between the curricula? So, can students move between different curricula at different ages? So if you're going in an FS, is it easy then to maybe 3 years' time to, okay, I could move from the UK into maybe the IBPYP and then into the diploma program? So is there an age when you feel like, or you would say to parents, you can keep at this, but it's really important that you make it a stronger decision about a curricula at a certain age?
Yeah, I think there's kind of key milestones in the journey from FS up to year 13 in our case. We'd look at the first one being in year 7 where they come into entry level into the secondary school, now we're under the British curriculum, and really that's a good opportunity to embed into our school, especially in the secondary side of things. But in short, kind of move from another curriculum, yes, we do accept students from other curriculums, and depending on what curriculum quality of school they come from, they might come with different knowledge gaps or they might come with different skills ability. The next stage for us after year 7 then would be year 9 into year 10, which means they're transitioning to IGCSE program. And that's a key milestone to think about what type of pre-sixth form qualification do parents want for their students or their children, and that will lay the foundation about their ability to perform then in the sixth form. So I say to parents, year 7 is extremely important, then for us it's year 9 into year 10 at the IGCSE, and then the decision has to be made post IGCSE what curriculum they want to do for their sixth form. But to respond to your question directly, we do take students from a multitude of different curriculums at year 7, at year 10 and at IB, and we feel we have the ability to take them, come in, we can assess where they're at, look at their skills level, look at their knowledge gaps, look at their holistic development, and then progress them from whatever stage they come to us at.
Yes, okay. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's a little difference that I'd add. I mean, we start the GCSE programme a little bit earlier. We start our GCSEs in year 9, just because we want to give them a real breadth of GCSE options, which makes that transition then for our own candidates into the IB a little bit more smoother, where they'll move down from the 11 GCSEs into the 6th, which gives them a bit more of that breadth of opportunity. It's also then allowing us to embrace a much more extended CAS type programme with the students in year 9, where they're developing themselves beyond just the academia side. But I think those transition points are quite clear at a secondary perspective. I think we tend to sometimes ignore a little bit what happens in the lower sector, and that's a shame, because actually that's where our best practice does happen in order to create these divergent thinkers who come into the and can flourish in any actual academic form, because the quality of primary care outside in the UAE is simply outstanding. But going down and watch practice in the early years is fundamentally some of the most exciting and best practice we ever see, and therefore to create these agile youngsters that will need to remain agile as they go into the future workforce. I think across all our curriculums, I would say the schools in the UAE prepare our students greatly for that next stage.
Yes, yeah. And also just thinking maybe with the school, and I know it's often in several schools where they may have a choice, so you can, your school is offering the advanced placement versus the diploma program. So then you are giving, there is that opportunity to sort of follow a different path depending on maybe how the child has progressed throughout the year.
Yeah, that's right. And then in our Common Core courses, we also have sort of multi-grade courses as well. So, at the end of an American education, if you choose that, you can take certain courses and they're multi-grade, so you'll have students in grades 9, 10, and 11 together in the same course. So it's not that this one band is just sort of taken through, but the students in their elective programs have more opportunities to explore different things. And as long as they get all their requirements done by the end of their graduation, then the credit system is really very open to different types of learners.
Yes, yeah. And I think, although some sort of, the IB program is very broad, and then we're going into sort of maybe the A levels where it becomes more specific, and then you're looking more at specialist subjects. Should parents also, before we sort of go on to that level of the college education, should parents be looking at, if they want their child perhaps to pursue languages or to pursue, maybe more something in the arts, should they be looking at that in the early years from as young as foundation? If they know their child, they really want to follow maybe a particular music program, or they want to, do a study in additional language, is that something they can look at earlier before we get into the...
Certainly, I mean, there's certain schools I know take on aspects of Reggio Emilia here, that our own schools at King's have done that specifically with the arts and languages. So there are schools here that have got that background, almost like Montessori type affair. So if you are into the arts and that's what you specifically want for your child, then yes, you can find that here. But I think I would take from all of the conversations here, good schools or great schools even will offer fairly similar approaches to teaching, to learning, that will have that balance between skills, have that balance between curriculum and depth. So you will find a similarity, and I guess what all of us do within the schools, moving all the way through. So transition between them isn't often that difficult. The only thing I would say is when you do transfer between schools, you do tend to lose about three months worth of education, and that's something that parents do have to bear in mind. And also, as I come back to the original point, the curricula is about inspiring in every point of the area. You know, you should want your child to learn something in the joys of Shakespeare and English. You should want to have the joy of solving an equation in mathematics. So don't just be focused on a particular area, because your child is going to become an adult and they are going to have their own points of view.
Yes,
so
yeah.
again, look for that breadth in what can be offered, and you get that feel when you walk into a school. You just know. You can see where there's that spark for learning and that spark for passionate educators, and that's just wandering around a school and having a look.
Yes, yeah. And I guess it's all about not having to, or being too focused on one particular path.
Yeah.
Like you say, prescribing it for your child, because at the end of the day, they'll follow their path, or they'll follow their loves and their passions and what they're stronger in. And so looking at that in terms of maybe the academic and the rigor, you know, if we're looking more at the subjects and the core subjects and the rigor of the different curricula offered, is there one that we feel would be more perhaps suited to a very much more an academics child, one that's more creative? Do you feel that you're offering, starting with the UK and going into the DP, is it very academically rigorous, the DP compared to the UK?
In terms of the academic rigour, we've got a choice of different options for our students.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what we do is when they're coming through in year 9 or in year 11, we sit down with them individually, have a look at their aspirations towards university, whether they're going down the arts route or they're down the medicine route.
Mm-hmm.
And we can tailor our approach for them, whether it's one that's highly academic and we put them onto the diploma programme. We've also have a courses option, which is more of a blended option, which will be less academically rigorous.
Okay.
We also got the career-related programme too, which is an opportunity for them to learn through the Alpha Team group on work placements each week in the actual businesses, and combine that with some academic rigour as well. So there's no one size fits all essentially, and there is programmes that are more academically challenging, and for us we push the students towards a diploma programme towards that. And then we've got the courses options, and we can go more towards their passions, and we've got the career-related programmes, combination of the academics and the learning on the job essentially.
Yes, yeah. And again, you're offering the UK and going into the...
And you're right to say about the academic rigour, because the IB is very clear that, you know, having those breadth of subjects, there is the real academic rigour required for our students to succeed, to get the very best results. The university findings now, the IB is 50 years old. If you look at the IB, if you look at the UK degree results, more students have achieved first in their degree are those students who graduated through an IB-led curriculum. So if we're looking at the academic rigour challenge and also the skills that are around that, I keep coming back a little bit to the skills in terms of curriculum, because in order to be successful with an IB diploma curriculum, you also have to be organised, as you were talking about. You have to have the knowledge in order to succeed at the higher level subjects. You have to be well-rounded in order to offer that great provision and commitment to helping the world in the future and being kind and caring individuals through our CAS element, and those really philosophical thinkers that come through the theory of knowledge and the extended essay, preparing those students for the next stage. So the IBDP does offer an academic rigour which will ensure students will succeed at the next stage, which is why universities like Boston University and NYU in the States now no longer require you to do SATs or ACTs, because they recognise the young people coming out of an IB curriculum are really ready for the challenges of tomorrow.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And do you feel that, you're talking about the academic rigour, and that's in the diploma programme, is the UK curriculum that's as rigorous as well? Do you feel, is that preparing a child to then go on and do the diploma programme?
Well, yeah, so again, with the GCSEs, the reason we've chosen the GCSE curriculum as opposed to an MYP curriculum is to do with the academic rigour of the GCSEs, and there is an element of standardised testing at the IB, so therefore going through that broad GCSE programme with students able to take as many as 11 or 12 GCSEs does allow them to have the organisation and skills to make that transfer forward a bit easier. Evidence shows again on that area that non-MYP students are achieving better grades at IB than GCSE students, but that, as we were saying earlier, the MYP is only a new course and developing, and that will strengthen up over time in order to meet, I'm sure, the academic rigour that's required.
Yeah, because that does, you know, none of the schools here obviously are offering that at the moment, and we're offering different blended curricula here, and I know you're offering the primary years programme.
That's right.
At Universal American Schools. So do you feel, does that, in your opinion, does that give the students an advantage and prepare them more for that diploma programme later on?
Well, I think what's really important is that you have a solid foundation, a solid vertebrae of your curriculum. So that for us is the Common Core through the Arrow standards, and we make sure that we're teaching that. But we use the methodology of the PYP, which is an inquiry-driven model, which can then sort of provide value added to a stable curriculum. There are a number of schools in the MYP. I've had a lot of experience in the MYP where teachers will write their own curriculum, and you know, in schools where teachers leave on a fairly regular basis, if you have this sort of suitcase curriculum, when the teacher goes, the school goes as well. So making sure, as all of these schools have made choices, we are connected to the Common Core all the way throughout, so that there are standards that are predictable. And then using the methodology of the PYP, we are able to have an inquiry-driven approach where the students can think very creatively. And I do believe that helps them out when they get to to the middle school and eventually to high school, because it broadens their thinking and it makes it a little less machinated than it can be in some more prescriptive approaches to education.
Yes, yeah. And then moving away from the IB and then towards the UK system, obviously it's right the way through from the UK, the national curriculum, the early years foundation stage it starts with, then you're moving into the IGCSEs and A-levels. So do you feel then you're offering a bit more of the consistency of that same framework throughout?
Yes, I mean it's all designed around basically the national curriculum. It's all designed to feed into each other, so we don't see any particular jumps moving between the curricula. Between GCSE to A-level, it's very much prepared for. There's no real leap in the imagination or depth there, because we try to push beyond GCSEs anyway, which I'm sure you guys do with your own program. And moving from primary to secondary, it's quite, again, the joy of a through school is it's quite a natural transition. We have year 6 scientists being taught by sixth formers, etc. So there's nice things that happen within the through school that we have. The joy for us, I guess, is we get to specialise more post 16, which suits more some children better than others. For like the IB, they're all great curriculum. And I've been an IB head myself. I sing its praises from the roof regularly. However, it's not from everyone. Some students don't want to do maths, they don't want to do the sciences. The artists get penalised somewhat within it. So having a wide scope of A-levels or AP allows you to really explore what that passion may be. For example, we have artists who can do fine arts, they can do photography, they can actually do textiles as 3 different A-levels, should they wish to be that specialised. And that allows them to develop a huge portfolio, which universities love. And that's the benefit, I guess, of our post-16. It just allows that again, I was coming back to that spark of inspiration, and I think that's where the curricula can spark lower down, and it gives you that opportunity to develop at the end.
Yeah. And it is, as you say, I think, when we're looking at the A-levels, and there is sort of, this understanding that the IB is much broader, I think, once you get, move up. The A-levels, it's much more focused, and like you say, whether that's in the arts, or you want to focus on the sciences, or maybe you're, maths isn't, your strength, but, you're particularly strong in the arts, or
breadth and depth.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of myself, I did maths, physics, art and history. That you can do those options should you wish to. And it allows you to, that's the good thing about the IB. If it kind of goes wrong, you've got to fall back on all these other subjects. Sometimes at the A-level that might not be, but if you have that breadth, if you're uncertain, you can still be broad in what you know and apply things. And I think that's a good thing to have.
Yeah, for sure. But then also, Liam, then going on the flip side of that, looking at the IB, and then we're looking at the breadth of that. So, is that suited to maybe a child who's not quite sure what they're going to do when they go on to university? Or maybe they're multi-skilled, multi-talented?
Absolutely. I was just thinking that, 16-year-olds, there are not many on those FS1 journey where they're knowing going to Oxford. So therefore, offering students to have the breadth, and we keep going back to it. We don't know what the jobs of the future look like, and I know every generation has probably said that before, but never has that been more true of today. So we need to create young people who can be adaptable and do these 10, 11, 12 different career choices that possibly we're talking about in the future. And the creative side that you spoke about so beautifully there is we do recognise that there's more. There's triple the workforces coming through the creative industries now than in any kind of industry. So therefore, are we, when we go down an A-level route, therefore restricting those kind of opportunities? So therefore, does the IB develop a more holistic experience, both in knowledge, in heart and soul, than maybe we realise that we've had to provide before? And I think that sometimes that's where we've all got to be changing and adapting in order to suit the young people in front of us. Peter Senge says, doesn't he? He talks about nurturing talent, that the healthy school nurtures and grows and takes that talent and creates the best programme for them. And that's what we do as educators. We look at the young people, we look at the families, and we work alongside them to say, we want your child to have the most successful future. How can we work together to create that? And that's what we all do. And I'm speaking to everybody before that. I know that's
and give those choices so that you can see the students progress throughout the years and actually see what may match them.
And then with the IB, with the language element as well, you're adding that level of communication that it can communicate to a range of people in a range of cultures, and we celebrate the beauty of language. Again, sometimes that's something we restrict in the British curriculum, that going continuously with languages, we stop potential of doing maths at a further stage, and sometimes that's a restriction that we do have on it, which is the beauty, as you were saying, of the IB to have that breadth for an agile learner for tomorrow.
That's the flip side for the A level. You can, it's kind of what we were talking about before, the
right.
IB and the A level. If you view them as languages that you are learning, mathematics is a language, there's obviously a language, and if you can always see it as that and how they've got that interconnectivity, I think good schools will do that. I know an AP school will do that, an A level school who does that well will do that, and they'll get those interconnectivity there, so you develop an understanding of what you're learning and how to apply it elsewhere. Because you're speaking, if you can do maths, you're speaking a language, and that's the talents that we take forward. And I guess the good thing about the British system in particular is you can spot those talents a lot earlier because of the notion of standardisation. I'm sure you've got students you progress through maths or sciences quicker, so you can excel and push them forward into different areas and different depths. And that's something that doesn't quite happen perhaps at IB, though it does give you that breadth. And OAP will do that in different ways. So we've all got curricula that kind of do things, but in different manners.
To suit that, like as we said at the very beginning, it's about suiting that individual child and what works for them, and like you say, it's coming down to the skills, and you don't necessarily know that they're going to be a lawyer or an astronaut, but they need that skill set to prepare them for the future.
I think that does come back to the skills only work when you've got that depth of knowledge, and what we all do is basically deliver the best of what we know and what has gone before us. It's all we can do. With second guessing what's coming just won't work.
But I was just going to ask about the comparison between, when you're offering students the choice of the GP and the AP, what would suit one particular child over the other?
Well, I mean, I sort of speak to a lot of parents about this in terms of something that they can understand, and I use the analogy of a brunch. The IB is a set menu, and the AP is a buffet, right? And so they can then choose the level of rigor. We have common core courses, so they can take a battery of common core courses along with some AP courses, so they can have some tremendously rigorous courses and then some courses that are more exploratory. And then with the IB diploma, of course, all of these courses are sort of unapologetically rigorous, and that's great. And there is that breadth of knowledge, but it does limit a student being able to take, as you said, 3 arts courses or 3 science courses, and those sorts of things. So it really comes down to, all of us are doing the same thing, and it's been echoed many times. In the early years, we make sure that students are literate and numerate, and they learn to read, and then eventually they read to learn. And then the choices that they make have to be reflections of who they are and what their aspirations are. Through all of these curricula, you can get into top quality universities. Through all of these curricula, you can do these things. But then it comes down to, what does the school stand for, and how does the school support and nurture the students through those choices? And so we have a number of counselors that are constantly meeting with the students and saying, which pathway do you want to go on? And starting this year, starting in grade 9, every student will set themselves a graduation pathway so that they can review that every year, instead of learning about the next year. You learn about grade 10 when you're in grade 9, and then you learn about grade 11 when you're in grade 10. We want to make sure that students understand the pathways and then are free to navigate them, but they're flexible enough.
Yes.
And I know that I'm going on, but I just say, the IB diploma is 2-year courses, and in the Common Core and the AP, these are 1-year courses. And so if a student decides to pursue a course and realizes that it's not for them, then they have the opportunity to at the end of the year, take a different course and be a little more agile. Whereas in the IB diploma, our students who choose that, by sort of this time in year 1, is the last time that they can make a chance in the choice. And now these choices, they have to see them through, otherwise they're not going to be successful in that IB diploma. So really having a lot of conversations and nurturing the students through those years in grade 9 and 10 to make sure that the choices that they make are preparing them for the next stage.
And I think that's an important point, that as much as it's about the curriculum, it's also about the support that the students are getting within each of the schools to help them and inform them and make that right decision. So you need to be offering that counselling and that support and the feedback from the subject teachers as well. The other question I just wanted to ask, going back to the school here, is about the career-related program, because you offer that option as well. Yeah. So when we're talking about the different options available, whether it's going more broad or more specialist, you're offering students a more vocational routes.
Absolutely. I think I'm the only person here offering the career-related program. It's the fastest growing program essentially globally. The benefits of the career-related program is there's huge flexibility in terms of what actually schools offer. At Deer International School, we offer 2 to 3 IB subjects. So they can take them at HL or SL. So in this case, if they want to go down the arts or they want to go down the mathematics, they have the opportunity to really focus on them, the key subjects that they want to do it, and they combine that then with a vocational program. We do a BTEC diploma. So essentially what they'll have is they've got the IB rigor, the IB holistic development through the core aspect of the IB, that focus on the key subjects if they want to go down that route, and then complementing it with the BTEC, which is project-based assessment, which can suit other types of students. And finally what we do is we actually combine it all together with weekly work placement, the Alpha Team group. So if they want to go into interior designing, if they want to go into accounting, finance, they can actually get weekly work placement, half a day per week, and they build up their portfolio over time. So it's a really kind of flexible program, and you'll see throughout the world the IB career leader program will be very different in different locations, and even in the UE some of the key schools are really offering different IB career leader programs. But we found the best kind of combination has been the vocational with the BTEC, which is very much project based and links into what they're doing with their Alpha Team group, and then offering that 2 to 3 subjects depending on what the students' real passions are. And we combine it together to give a good either entry into the workplace or university entry level as well.
Yes, yeah. It's good for students to have that option as well, and maybe if they have got their sights set on a particular career and that matches up to that, they're getting that hands-on work experience in these last 2 years of their education.
Absolutely, and like we're saying, it's extremely difficult for 16 to 18-year-olds to know what type of career they're actually going to go into. So what we find is actually with the career leader program, over the 2 years, they might actually sample 6 to 7 different careers. They might go from medicine to accounting, into finance, into interior design, and they get a taster session, and that may dictate then where their actual university applications go afterwards. So really it's kind of sampling. And the reality is that over time we're looking at the statistics are showing the probability is they're probably going to do 4 or 5 different careers, and having that opportunity to get a taster and experience that now will give them focus towards their university applications and hopefully better career choices later as well. It's an exciting program. Very fast growing, and huge flexibility for the students and the schools to offer good quality in it.
Yeah, I think it just highlights the choice and the flexibility and the variety, and how there is sort of this crossover between these different curricula, and then there's definite differences that will stand out to the different students. And I think going back to the diploma program, one part of that is this extended essay, which is a large research project, which could be argued then prepares students well for the research and what they would need to do in the university program. Can you just explain a bit more about that? And then I think we can also talk about how that crosses over into the A-level program.
The extended essays is a program that I'm a huge fan of. One of our students who went to Cambridge this year, the interview process she went through was basically based on her extended essay, and now she was able to articulate her vision, her love, and that passion that came through within her extended essay was absolutely clear. We're blessed at Nord Anglia, we've got a relationship with UNICEF, and we work very closely with UNICEF. So also we like to look at linking our extended essays to the Sustainable Development Goals, so that students are able to articulate their passion for creating a more sustainable and better future, and their love of subjects across the chemistry, the maths, the computer science always naturally allow that to come within. Psychology is possibly our most popular extended essay title last year and again this year for our students who want to get a deeper and greater understanding of mental health issues that themselves or their peers must face. So it's a real part of the programme that allows you to explore deeper the knowledge that you were talking about in that area that you really are focused to go towards. So it allows an extension of the depth that you've got across your subject. So it's a beautiful part of the programme, and yes, the level of rigour and academic writing prepares you bar none for what you're going to experience when you are at university, because that is what makes that smooth transition from IB to university much smoother, is the academic rigour and writing that they experience at the IB level. And I know other schools though that don't offer that, so within a different curriculum type, then there's other opportunities for an EPQ, for example, to offer a similar type of strategy to order to facilitate that. Because I think this is about what your curriculum can offer, but what not good schools, great schools do is they look at their curriculum and they strengthen it up in other areas to make sure the students are prepared beyond that. So I think that's what you do.
Yeah, I was going to say with the A-level now, and this is what I think we're starting to see as curriculum, it's adapting and it's shifting and it's changing and it's not rigid. And so we're seeing with the A-levels now the introduction of the extended project qualification, the EPQ.
Yeah, we run that at our school as well. I mean, I've had the joy of being an extended essay coordinator. I mean, it does, as you rightly say, it just prepares for university so well. So to not do it at an A-level would be fundamentally wrong. So again, it's something we push. And it's, again, not for everybody, but it's for the children who have got a real passion or have got that academic depth and the rigour that we want. It's really worthwhile. We start everybody on it because everybody should learn how to do, reference and how to cite properly, how to actually go and look for things properly rather than taking the first thing off Google. These are, skills that are fundamentally essential.
Yeah.
Plus, it gives an opportunity to do something that perhaps you are interested in, which the curriculum sometimes doesn't give you. Irrespective of what we teach or which curriculum we do, it's still a curriculum. It's limited. This allows you to go off piste and explore, which again it comes back to the spark that I was talking about. And as you say, I know a number of students who've taken this to university interviews, and that's gotten them through. It's made the difference. So it's really worthwhile doing.
Yeah, and I think it just adds, it shows just how many different aspects there are to the curriculum and how broad it is, whichever you're choosing.
But you might then take VOV, for example, that will map against CAS program, for example. Then theory of knowledge, I was saying I'm trying to run an ethics program of my own with the students because we were talking before about the idea of IT, and how quickly AI is taken over. Actually, understanding how to program is not our problem because computers will program for us. We have to understand the ethics of it. So again, that's something that, as you talked about, great schools will automatically do and they'll automatically put into their curricula. So our students are prepared for the world ahead.
Yeah, and it's interesting to talk about the DOV and the CAS aspect of the IB program. Obviously, this is now looking more at the service side and getting out into the community. And Obi, do you feel that's equally important? We've talked a lot about the academic side and the research and the essays and the academia, but obviously community and service, these are important skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a fairly robust CAS program at our school as well through our IB stream, and we have a Week Without Walls program where we do some experiential learning and we make sure that our students are constantly exposed to opportunities within service. I mean, ultimately, yes, we want our students to be these wonderful, academically, enriched people, but we want them to be good people who want to make a difference in the world. Yeah. And if you look at the IB's mission statement, it says that the mission is to create a better and more peaceful world through education, and understand that other people with their differences can also be right. And I think that is a noble pursuit. I think that in our American, our mission is to nurture a community of integrity and academic excellence, and that's for all students. And so, that does involve exposing them to service learning opportunities, and realize that to give to others is one of the most noble things that you can do. And I think our students appreciate that very much.
Yes, yeah. I think it's being fully embraced more and more. But it's not just in these senior years, is it, Brian? We're looking at that, when you look at the curricula in the early years from FS, is this where you're sort of including that, the community side or service side into the curriculum in the young years as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of our schools, what they'll do is they'll do a top-down approach. The CAS will actually run all the way down to FS, and what we have is basically initiatives that can be run by the prefect groups under the CAS projects, but will actually involve student leadership throughout the school. Essentially, if you want to have student leaders leaving our schools after sixth form, really have to ignite that passion down at the FS level. And we put a huge amount of responsibility on our senior leadership at the school in terms of our prefects, who will be the IB, to develop the FS students all the way up towards the year 11 students. So it's fundamentally kind of a top down from the CAS, but the CAS runs throughout the school. And what's great to see is how the older students really get the younger students involved, spark that passion, bring down their initiatives down towards the FS, and it's a whole school approach. Because again, you're starting off with a small community within our school, and you're trying to develop that at the local initiatives and then it's international initiatives.
Yes, for sure.
And that's best practice at early years as well. The best practice at early years is that in the moment planning, in the moment learning. We've got an early years group of students who've led the Lights Off campaign just because it was one student's moment. There was an interaction between him and a peer, and then the teacher caught hold of it, and that beautiful moment for that curriculum to develop of that whole cohort of students who can now be seen switching lights off everywhere around the school. UNICEF Sustainable Goal 7, I think that is, with clean energy. So therefore, we've got young people then, we're nurturing the leaders of change for tomorrow, and that being one opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And again, talk about the skills that we're saying early in their leadership is one skill, and communication, these are all skills that students need regardless of what career they're going to follow in. And I think parents need to feel reassured that these aspects of the education that are being looked at from the very beginning, so when they choose, regardless maybe of curriculum, but each school will approach it differently. Would you
Agreed. I mean, I think come back to your very first question about what should parents go looking for in a curricula, it's maybe not the curricula, it's what does the school expresses its values, and does it live them? Does it? What's on the front of the tin? Is it inside? And and that you will get across. There's not one of our schools that will say that we're not churning out, or turning out, I should say, it's a better word. Students in the future who are academically rigorous, who care for it. We all aspire for those things. That's what a great school does. But when you walk around, do you see those values being lived? As you said, turning off the lights is a great example. Are the students leading each other? Is there a culture of kindness in these schools? That has to be part of your choice as well. It's not just the curricula. It's actually the hinterland, as Tom Charrington calls it, the bit outside of the curriculum. What is actually happening there that makes that curriculum work? So go looking for that.
Yeah, and it's the softer skills as well, isn't it? And the creativity. And then once we start talking about that, then we're looking at the creativity, the arts aspect of sport as well. So how important is that within a curriculum when choosing?
I wouldn't have graduated from high school if it weren't for sports. I played 9 sports in high school, and so that's a massive part of the ethos of American school is to make sure that you have a robust co-curricular opportunity, and I'm sure every school does. I know that DIS has a very, very rich co-curricular program, athletics program, arts program. But those are the things that you look for. Generally speaking, I don't know if any of us can remember what was on some exam that we wrote in grade 10, but I remember the experiences of being on those sports teams. I remember the experiences of going on those trips and tours, and there's a lot of things you learn. You learn communication, you learn discipline, you learn work habits, you learn leadership. And so if you are looking for a school, I think it's you would be remiss not to be thinking about how can I get into the hinterland with my child and provide opportunities outside of just this single stream of academia.
Yeah, and would you agree with that, Brian, looking at, when you're talking about as well as field trips and excursions and trips, this also needs to fall under the pathway that they're following?
Absolutely. We've kind of packaged thing called experiential learning this year. We've looked at how we can actually bring experiences to students outside the classroom. That's overseas trips that we're doing, getting involved in sports, getting involved in work placements. So we've looked at kind of developing outside the curriculum how important it is. And the CAS element, I think, is extremely important. And as an IB school, it's actually embedded into the curriculum where creativity is exceptionally important for students to be shown. And the service aspects, and as we mentioned here, like the sustainability development goals, how we can actually develop them on the school level, national, international level, and then linking in with key groups in around the UE, things like with the Watani group for developed student leadership, especially with Emiratis. We've also got links in with the environmental group, and from a service point of view, it's extremely important. We find that you get great value and added value from linking in with local networks, local leadership programs. Then the overseas trips aspect of it too kind of all combines. In terms of importance, we need to start looking outside the academics. I think the top schools around now, it's not about just the academic curriculums, but what you can provide outside of that.
Yes.
And that comes with the service programs, the CAS programs, experiential programs, overseas trips, work placements, and that's really what builds the holistic development to students and make sure that when they go then leave our schools, want to universities to have them skills and have quite good CVs to make sure they can get the access into universities. And that comes from differentiating outside of the curriculum rather than inside the curriculum. And most universities, we spoke this weekend to admissions at King's, Yale, and they spoke about the importance now of differentiating students through what they're doing in addition to their academics. And really that's where schools need to start adding value, whether that's through the sports achievements, whether that's through the service that they're adding to the communities, and there's some creative projects that they're taking on themselves as student leaders. And it's really about developing that outside of the curriculum that differentiates a lot of students now.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also when you talk there about the CV, what's on the student CV, and I think, it's not just, their 3A grades or their IB score, universities, employers are looking for so much more than that. Absolutely. So then I suppose that's why it's important to look at this curriculum as a whole and what the school is offering to give their students those opportunities as well.
And I think it's important when you do that you have to make sure that you're constantly speaking to the students about purpose. If a student is getting involved in every possible opportunity to bolster their CV, hoping that it's going to get them into university, at some point there's going to be an interview, and that's where your point about the young lady with her extended essay, she was challenged on why, and so really getting into the offering as many different opportunities as you can, but having conversations with students about why is this important to you, and making sure that they're reflective and articulate about how these experiences are enriching them. so that the rewards are intrinsic and they can express those intrinsic rewards as opposed to them being something to put on a CV.
Yes, yeah. And now we're talking about getting into the university, which is obviously the end goal, or is either university or then going on to a college placement or a vocational work placement. But in terms of university, parents may think, okay, if I follow the UK curriculum and do the A levels, that's getting me into a UK university. If I do the AP, that's going to get me into a US university. Does that necessarily follow? Would that be correct?
No, I think we're all going to say the same thing here. They're all global standards, they're all recognised, they're all going to get you into top universities globally. The A levels recognised globally, the IB is designed to be a globally recognised programme, the AP is recognised globally. These will all get you into a top university, no problem. And I think that's some of the misconceptions that parents do have. I know I talk to my parents regularly about IB versus A level, and it comes down not to where you are going, but what is your child best suited to? Is it that breadth? Therefore the IB may be the best thing for them, or actually do they really want to specialise, or are there things that they know they're going to be great at, or are there things they definitively don't want to do? That's where you start to have that discussion about what the programme should be.
Yes,
I think just to add to that, he's correct in terms of the sense that they're all entry-level universities. The key differentiator, I suppose, for parents is looking at how seamless the transition can be between high school or secondary education and into university education. And we looked at a lot of statistics, especially coming from the IB background, and the idea of the IB being more interdisciplinary, building those skills, the extended essays, the research skill, not just an extended essay, but the internal assessment means that the transition into university. And for parents, a big probably worry is that when they go off to university, first year university, living on their own, that independent aspect, which curriculum really will give them the best or seamless transition into university, make sure when they get to university they're able to perform. Are they independent learners? Are they inquirers? Will they be able for the research skills that are required for 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 word essays? So I think in terms of entry level to university, that's the whole idea of them all. The A levels, the AP, the IB. The key thing for both for parents is looking at which would be best preparation to make sure to succeed when they go to university. And there's quite a lot of IB research in terms of how well the IB student will perform in terms of acquiring those first class degrees and pushing on into master's levels and PhD because they're inquirers from a younger age.
I think that also comes back to the values of your school, as I was saying. If you value independent learners, again as a parent, ask where and how are you doing that? How are you creating organisation? How are you getting that culture of reading? How are you getting research skills? And just ask those questions. A level does this, GCSE does this, all the curricula do that. It's then making sure, as I said, whatever the school is saying it's doing, parents have to go and ask, how do you do that? And that's the best thing you can do when you're looking at schools.
And I also think, the purpose of high school is not to get kids into university. I'm more interested in who they're going to be when they're 30 than 18, right? We want to make sure that we're preparing them for life. And so we want to make sure that they have options so that they can get into, animation college, they can get into building swimming pools, whatever it is that they want to do with their lives. The university is one paradigm, and it's an important one. I've benefited enormously from my 3 university degrees. But I look at my brother-in-law who animates films for Disney, and he didn't finish university or college or whatever, and he's an enormously successful person. What a school's ultimate purpose is to make kids the best possible version of who they already are. And what we all do through our curriculum is to provide our students opportunities to be that. And then we need to guide them along the way because they're young and they're going to make mistakes. But I sometimes worry that there's this enormous pressure about our matriculation. We do have wonderful matriculation, and our best students are going to the best universities. But there are other kids who that's not suited for. And what are schools in Dubai doing for those kids? And I think that's a really important question.
Yeah. And then looking at that and sort of looking more at talking about the grade side of things, obviously that's needed to get into university, but how important is that when parents are maybe looking at curriculum? Should they be looking at, which are the top performing schools and the grades that are coming out of that? Is that is that a clear indicator of who's performing well?
It's a direct evidence source, isn't it? There's no hiding away from it. When the data's there in front of you, it's very clear. I like the conversation we were having actually. The data probably schools don't show enough is about the value add to the experience the young people have. And I don't mean just value add in grades, which great schools do, but the value add in hearts and minds. And it's all that additional stuff. So yes, please ask us the questions. We'll talk to you about our 36.5 IB average. Great set of first results. Are we continuously doing that year upon year with cohorts? But also come and listen to the stories that I want to share you about the young people's journeys who are much more than just a grade, and make time to have those conversations, because you will hear your child in some of those journeys that we can talk to you about, and we will all, as educators and practitioners, develop the best talented young people to continually be challenging, questioning, growing, developing and leading change for other people. And that's what we want to hold here to see. We want to give these people the academics to allow them to create change at a much higher level, and you don't do that without developing the skills, whether it's through sports, whether it's through trips, the many different things. These are great educators and great schools all together talking about our common theme of let's make sure young people are prepared for a great future, and that's what we do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think it sums it up beautifully. And I think what's interesting today is we've got 4 different schools and talking about different curriculum, and all agreeing that, you know, they each have their strengths and they each have their similarities as well between them. But at the end of the day, it's about finding the right curriculum for your child. And I think everyone can agree that, you know, there's a fit for each child and there's a curriculum that's right for your son or your daughter. And so the best thing is to look at that, look at what you want for your child going forward. But don't just look at necessarily just the academics, the core subjects, look at what's offered as a whole. And I think each of these schools can offer that in different ways.